So I am interviewing you on behalf of Fleri. Fleri is also founded by African immigrants, and what we're trying to do, is basically try to provide financial wellness, protecting immigrants' dreams in the US, in outside of Africa, but making sure that they're
Mm-hmm.
also caring for their loved ones on the continent.
Mm-hmm.
And then this month, which is like the month of the International Month of the Women, the theme is breaking the bias. Just wanting to reach out
Right.
to you so that we hear from you, because on your part of who you are, you have been working on the continent but went to study in the UK and then decided to come back. It's
Yes.
very impressive. Where
Yes.
most of people literally, once they go to Europe or US, tend not to come back. So that's why
Yeah.
I picked interest to get to know, why did you come back on the continent? What is so special that other people don't
Right.
find special that made you come back? So yeah, that's literally in a nutshell.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
why?
that's exciting.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, who is Samba in a nutshell, and
I
what is
always
it about?
say, yeah, I always say that is a very hard question to answer because I feel like I'm so many things. But
Yeah.
if I pick the actual thing, I'm actually a trained journalist. So I think that's why I'm always interested in stories, what is happening, narratives. And if
Yeah.
I look back in my career, that was actually what has influenced a lot of it. But I actually set up, after I came back from London doing my master's in the UK, I decided to set up a company called Cortana Media, and it designs communications products for Africa.
Yeah.
Whether it's global, whether it's Africa based. But what we've done is developed a territorial expertise that has a footprint across Africa. Because what we noticed is a lot of global organizations will come and work in Africa and want to do a lot of good, but they don't know how to design and create for the context of Africa. And the work that we have done is training and teaching and designing these kind of products that work across Africa to suit Africa's needs.
Wow.
I think that's how I can describe what Kwatenga Media has done for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And then as a result of all the work we've done there, discovering information and misinformation about Africa, working with such organizations,
Hmm.
especially global ones,
Yeah.
we actually realized that Africa, the way it's positioned, is not favorable for the advancement of Africa. And we
Yeah.
realized we need to do the work ourselves to change that narrative, change
Yeah.
that positioning.
Yeah.
So as a result, and as part of that work, I also co-founded the Women's History Museum with Mulenga Kapepe, who's a local cultural expert. And our desire with that was to kind of define and restore indigenous knowledge systems of Africa that have impacted Africa but have been obscured.
Yeah.
And we've found that this actually converges at an intersects at a space of knowledge systems, at a space of indigenous art, digital and the creative industry for Africa.
Yeah.
And we believe this is a place of great potential for development for Africa's success story. And we're working in that space as well to kind of create opportunities
Yeah.
for Africa.
That's really amazing. And it's so empowering to hear how everything is now centered around Africa. Tell me a little bit more. When you went to study in the UK, and what made you come back?
Mm-hmm.
What made you come back on the continent
Well,
and then work for the continent?
I always tell this story. I say that I didn't want to stay in the matrix because it felt like that's what it was.
Yes.
I I went to study transnational communications and global media at
Yeah.
Goldsmiths College, which is one of the best universities. I had an incredible time. I mean, they gave us all the opportunities possible. We
Yeah.
met industry leaders who are working in a kind of in Africa at the intersection of Africa and Europe. And I got so many opportunities, met so many people. And I
Yeah.
also got an opportunity to work at the BBC actually
Wow.
for Focus on Africa. Yeah, on the
Wow.
radio desk.
Yeah.
Yes. So while, and you can imagine how intense that is. We would go
Very.
in every day, knock off late, and it was empowering, it was educative, it was so exciting. But the one thing I noticed is that every time we came across Africa stories and we had to like work on the Africa stories,
Mm-hmm.
is that some, credit to all the editors and all the journalists there, they do incredible work. But I just felt that all the time we were working on African stories, it would be like, what's the worst scenario? Like,
The
it's
bad
like,
pictures. Yeah.
well, yeah, like what is the worst thing that's happening? Let's focus on like the most devastating news.
Oh
And
my
for me,
God.
it was just like,
No.
yeah, uh, I was just like, this is not the story I want to tell. This is not the story of Africa I
Yeah.
want to tell. I want to
Yeah.
tell a more positive story consistently, because they are positive, consistent stories as much as they are devastating stories. Because it's true, the devastating stories are there,
They
but they're
are.
not the only thing that's there. So
Yeah.
for me, I was like, make the choice, Samba. Do you want to stay in a space where you mostly tell the devastating stories, or do you want to create a space where you can tell positive stories that position Africa in a different way? So I chose the latter. And that's when I made the decision that, yeah, I don't think this is a space I want to stay. And I honestly felt like even if I had to stay in the UK and try and
Yeah.
create a space there, it wouldn't be the right space to create a
Create.
voice for Africa. I'd need to come back to Africa. And that's why I came back.
I love that. I love that. While we are now diving deep into your career, and you are one of the women
Mhm.
literally that are breaking the bias on the continent. Most of women don't feel confident to even start a company to run it, and to even be able to change the narrative. And you are changing the narrative on the continent and outside of the African continent. Can you tell us what is one professional accomplishment that you are most proud of and why?
I can think of one, but there's so many. Accomplishment is so relative to me. I would say, my accomplishment would be to see that the Women's History Museum is influencing how peace is treated in the world. You know what I mean? Like that would be my accomplishment, because one of the
Yeah.
things we've discovered in the indigenous knowledge systems is that women were great peacemakers in Africa, like before colonialism. They were actually used to broker peace. And some of the work that we're doing is documenting these narratives and putting them out in the mainstream to show that Africa could be positioned as a global peacemaker. Look at what's happening around the world today,
Yeah.
even around Africa. And a lot of it is caused by very selfish motives. And the way peace used to be brokered in Africa was that you think about everybody's well-being and work towards that. So that is something that we're working towards, like mainstreaming that knowledge, ensuring that that knowledge is packaged and sent around so that people can know about this. So for me, I would say is being a part of contributing to that goal and that objective of positioning Africa to
Yeah.
be a world leader. For me, that's
Love that.
my greatest accomplishment that I continue to work towards.
Uh, you mentioned how women used to be the key reconciliators in the past, pre-colonial. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because that is really interesting. It's my first time to hear it. I think I've heard about that, but I think I don't
Mhm.
have a lot more knowledge around that.
Exactly. So, and that's the thing about our indigenous knowledge systems. It's like we kind of have a general knowledge about it because we still live it.
Yeah.
Some of our parents are still alive, our grandparents are still alive, and you see the mediation process, you'll notice that a lot of women are involved in it and they're
Yeah.
not excluded. But what we did when we started finding a lot of these narratives that were obscured, we decided to create a digital series, animation series called Leading Ladies. And in that, we showed how archetypes that are usually associated to men actually belong to women in the pre-colonial stage.
Mm.
So we developed archetypes like the peacemaker, the general, the head of state, the secretary of state, And all those positions like that were actually held by women. They're the ones who used to mediate, to broker deals, to do political negotiations for their communities. And it actually, particularly for Zambia, it contributed to nation building of Zambia. And these are documented stories, and particularly with peacemaking, because in the communities, the women are the one that used to caretake the communities, the villages, the homesteads, and they would be the go-betweens in terms of providing counsel and providing information to the leaders and the community leaders, and they were relied on as peacemakers. You'll see that even now, even if you go to the rural areas, you still see that a lot,
Yeah.
especially those who still hold on to their indigenous knowledge rather than having adopted a lot of this patriarchal kind of system. You will still see it existing, but we just don't forefront it, and we don't see it as an asset. And
Yeah.
that's some of the work that we're trying to do, like to show that you actually have these assets in the indigenous knowledge system.
Wow.
And what we need to do is apply them more across our general and contemporary lifestyle. Yeah.
That's really amazing, because coming to think of it, women were not the ones who were storytellers, but they played a huge role in our community, and they are
Mhm.
still doing that. I think the problem is who is
Absolutely.
really telling the story. Who is telling the story? Are these men telling the story, or we are the ones
Yeah.
telling the stories? And I think you are really, really doing an amazing job to spotlighting these women. This brings us to our final main question, not the final questions, but main question on what key components would you say are the catalysts necessary to make a sizable impact in your work surrounding women's sovereignty, compassionate leadership, and breaking the biases? You don't have to respond to it one by one, but you can definitely give us a little bit more context around that.
Yeah, so I think what has happened over the millennia years and all of that, there is the masculine and the feminine, and both of them play an important role. But what has happened is that the masculinity has overridden how we live our life, and masculinity is seen as the main driver of leadership, of control, of being on top, and yet it's not. So that imbalance, because there's now an imbalance, imbalance has caused the bias, has caused the discrimination, has caused women to be set aside. And what needs to happen is to reverse that balance. Because it's interesting, even if, you know, women, masculinity is associated to men, femininity is associated to women, women have actually taken on masculine, personas, masculine attitudes in order to get ahead, because they've seen that's what you need to do to get ahead. And that has created another bias again. What
Exactly.
needs to happen
Hmm.
is a reversal, and a balance where we realize that both masculine and feminine energies need to exist at par on an equal level for there to now create an environment where everybody is living in an equality state. Yeah.
That's very that's very powerful, because I don't have to act like a man to find my space in the world.
Right.
It's okay for me to be a woman,
No,
and I should be respected for my femininity without always having to act like someone else.
absolutely. And we're not meant to, you know what I mean? We're not meant to change who we are. And that's why we see that there in our society, if you even just pay attention and examine, you see where all the social problems come from, where all the discord comes from. It's
Yeah,
because we're changing our natural state. We're
yeah.
not supposed to change our natural state. We're just supposed to complement each other so that we can live in harmony. That is the goal. Yeah.
Very powerful. So at Fleri, like I said, we protect immigrant dreams. And one thing that I've seen for immigrant women, um, finding your place in the world of men is hard, but finding your place in a country that is not originally yours is harder. All right. What advice
Yeah.
would you give women, diaspora women, trying to find their space in a very foreign country which is not their homeland?
Yeah. Again, that is that is something that has been created. It's not real. If you look in Africa and how migration happened in Africa, whether you look at the Great Trek of Southern Africa and most of Africa, whether it's Northern Africa, Central Africa, everybody eventually integrated with each other. There was nothing like refugee. That thing never existed. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That thing has been created by modern politics and creating invisible boundaries that block and separate people from each other. And yet, as humanity, that's not the way we're supposed to live. We just one person is not different from you. It doesn't matter that they come from a different country. It doesn't matter that they speak a different language. They're human beings, right? And when they come into a space seeking help because there is trouble in their homeland, you accept them. And traditionally, that's what used to happen in our societies. When another tribe or another ethnic group is seeking refuge because they're being persecuted in their homeland, they would always be accepted. No questions asked. They would be integrated into the communities that become part of the communities. In fact, some of them would even bring wealth, knowledge, information that would even make the new homes much more prosperous. That's how they looked at it. It was never one thing of like separating you against me. And I think a lot of modern politics has caused that. Again, it is worth it going back and looking at our indigenous knowledge systems and how we live. You see, that's why I'm saying Africa is the solution for everything. Yes. We have all the answers.
I love you.
I'm borrowing from that.
No, you're my spirit animal. I love you. You are totally right. Right now, as we're speaking, I'm in Africa, and I love this continent too. I love it, and I think what we all need to realize, if you have like African roots, and it's always hard to fit in. Maybe you're not meant to fit in. Maybe you're meant to literally stand out and be yourself and try to find your way where you are living, but without having to literally change who you are to be maybe European or American, like you said.
Right.
This is Samba's word. Africa is the answer, people. Africa is the answer.
Africa is the answer, guys.
All right, let's go to the fireside chat. On the time, I know you have a very limited time. Yes. So what is one thing that you can rely on to be an instant mood boost for you?
I think I try to think of it. There are many things, honestly. I mean, have a glass of wine. Oh, no, I'm kidding. But it's just like, but yes, wine. I do. Me too. It's great. But I think when I think of what I actually do to because we are driven by our egos. Yes. And our egos, unfortunately, can sometimes be positive, a lot of times can be negative. What I try to do is be honest with myself and witness my reaction to things to teach me how I can do better. And I think one of the things that has really taught me through also the practice of, meditation, the practice of being observant of your own actions, your own emotions and your moods. One thing that has taught me is to be honest with myself so that when I do make a choice, I'm making the right choice for everybody, for myself and for those around me who I care about, my society, my community, the work that I do. And in the end, at the bottom line, that boosts my mood because I know I'm trying to do the right thing all the time.
I love that. That is very powerful. I think I should try it too. I love that.
It works.
All right.
It does
what
work.
Would you do if you weren't doing what you are currently doing?
Easily. I'd be a choreographer. I love dancing.
Now I need to
I honestly saw for the
I love that. You used to dance in the past?
Yeah, I used to do that a lot. I even started this salsa club ages ago and used to even train wedding parties to do salsa dancing. I love it. And I love all our traditional dances because the ethnic group that I come from has this amazing traditional ceremony called Likumbiriamize, where we have
Yeah.
mass dancers come out, and it's like so elaborate. And it's one of the most incredible experiences. Yeah, so I think it's in my blood,
That's
definitely. I would
beautiful.
have been a choreographer.
That is really beautiful. Okay, another question is there anyone's habit or belief that you would say has made a positive difference in your life over the last 3 years?
Oh man, there's so many. I've got the most incredible circle of friends, mentors, relatives, and also just observing again and observing and watching other people in your life and the decisions they make and how it impacts. So I try as much as possible. Again, the honesty thing, trying to be honest with myself, relying on my mentors, on my friends, uh, to be honest, because that's the space of vulnerability. And I think vulnerability is one of them. Honesty, vulnerability, because once you move into a space of vulnerability, you're moving into a space of much more strength to make the right decisions for you and eventually everybody else around you. So those are habits more and more I try to move closer to make spontaneous right actions.
I love that. One last one. TV series or movie?
Man, it used to be movies, now it's TV series because I'm just like, I don't have time for 2 hours. Like,
Ah, you don't have time for
no, I
TV,
said,
but you have
yeah, but
time
I'll
for.
binge like, but you binge like TV series for ages. But it's just 2 hours takes too long, too much emotion. Like, give me 20 minutes, 40 minutes. Yeah, I can do that.
Can
Yeah.
do that. I love that. Thank you so much, SambaYonga. Again,
Thank you
no,
so
for
much.
making the time. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Please, if you
Yeah.
get time, also do check us out. We will.
Yes, please, if you can send me,
I will send you more
yeah,
information about who we are, and once this is aired, we'll tag you on LinkedIn as well.
yeah,
And when you get time as well, send me your professional pictures so that we can be able to feature you and write a book.
absolutely.
All
Yeah, I can
right.
do that.
All right. I'm gonna
All
stop
right.
recording for now.